stop watching or whatever. But hopefully this will be entertaining. So I will start. Let's see. Sweet. Well, that's just me. What's up, guys? So thanks for watching, and I'm gonna put this video on YouTube too, so people can watch it later because it's probably where it's more interesting anyway. But I thought I'd talk a little bit about bad matchups, and specifically the Crow Talos matchup. But I'll get into that. So like in a very general level, like you hear people complain about bad matchups a lot, right? Like you hear people say, "Oh, it's a terrible matchup. I hate it. I have to learn another character or whatever." And sometimes they'll even say, "Oh, it's because of like this move or this series or just this circumstance of tools that this other character has that I don't have that makes it so it's really hard for me to win, right? Or I have to work harder to win." Because that's literally what we mean when we say bad matchup. It usually just means you have to work harder for the win than they do. So when people say 6-4 or 7-3 or whatever, they're saying out of 10 games. Like a Crow versus Talos should, the Crow should win 6 and the Talos should win 4, assuming like equal ability, right? But like, that's shorthand for describing how bad a matchup is. It's not a rule, right? And so what I figured I'd do today is talk a little bit about like kind of what it means to work harder, specifically in the Talos Crow matchup. And so I'm going to go over some matches from SCR. There was the Go Deer playing Talos into Reynald Crow during the exhibition, and that was like there were some problems with the matchup itself. I think Go Deer never got his stick working or whatever, but ultimately like that is and Go Deer lost pretty convincingly. But there's some stuff in there that we can look at to see like, okay, what can the Talos player do in this matchup? Because bad matchup does not mean unwinnable, and a lot of times you'll find. As people grow to learn a game, they actually learn bad matchups so that they're not so bad, right? Like, I think a good example is what's his name, Koji Cog, the grappler dude. I think he's played T-Hawk at I want to say his Northwest Majors last time. It's something, but I remember him getting counterpicked. Someone counterpicked his T-Hawk with Sagat, which is a terrible matchup. But obviously he's like. The person he was going up against wasn't a Sagat player. Yeah, they're competent with Sagat, but they weren't a Sagat main. So they haven't practiced that matchup as much as he has on the receiving end, right? So bad matchup just means it's about the characters. It's not about the players. And so I thought we'd kind of rip apart some first the SCR match, and then some of my own matches that I've recorded to kind of see why does Talos lose this match, or why do we think he loses this match? What makes you feel like he loses this match, and where can you look for opportunities? So the funny thing is, I've been playing Talos for a little over a week, and I was learning him specifically for this reason. I'll show you. What's up, Henry? Glad you like the picture. Yeah, I've been learning Talos specifically for this reason, as I wanted to learn more about some of his bad matchups and learn more about him as a character, because there were a few people on the Rising Thunder forums who are just like really upset that they feel like Talos has to work the hardest in the game, right? They feel he's lowest on the totem pole in terms of tiers, and I wanted to know kind of why it was. Right? Like, not necessarily because I disagree with them, but because I want to understand what it's like to be a Talos player and like what each matchup feels like. I've been playing Crow for most of Rising Thunder's existence, and so because of that, like, I mean, Lord knows I went through a time where only now is Crow looking really, really good. Like before, if he could feel like super broken in some matchups, but you could also totally shit on him if you seize the momentum, right? So, so I kind of wanted to learn more about this character, and I've been playing almost nothing but Talos for the last like 9 or 10 days. And every time I've gone up against a Crow, with the exception of Reynald, I've won. And it's not I'm not playing the best Crows because I'm playing on like my I started at like silver or whatever, and I checked my matchmaking rating, and it was pretty high. Like it wasn't just, oh, you're a silver scrub going up against other silver scrubs, but like I won a lot of Crow matchups, and but I could also tell, I think, why people feel like it's so bad. And as Crow, remember, as a Crow main, I know the matchup on the other end, and it never felt like it was a free win for me or anything by any stretch of the imagination. I always got super scared when I go up against Talos, because if I made a mistake in the neutral game and at my comfortable range and let him in, like I was kind of screwed. It's really hard to get that dude off your tail if you're a Crow. So that said, I'm not like the best Talos player out there or the best Crow player out there. I think I've been doing pretty well on like ladder games and stuff. I got blown up by Reynald and several other very good players with my Talos. I did take a round off Reynald. That was great though. I took one round and then he like double perfected me. But yeah, it's so I'm not like the best Talos player, and I don't even really play grapplers that much. But I kind of wanted to get to know a little bit about him, so I've been playing him a lot, and kind of figured I'd talk a little bit about my findings. So, start off. The build I've been running for pretty much every matchup is kinetic deflect and then special twos across the board. So that's the quick armored grab, the quick anti-air grab, the quick armored anti-air grab, and Spartan rush. And I think there are probably people who have studied Talos better than this, or better than I have, and might have specific insight in this matchup that I don't. But I felt like those were pretty good tools to start with, and I personally like kinetic deflect in. For a lot of characters. I run KD on Crow, I run KD on Edge these days, but I really like kinetic deflect because with Talos, like a lot of me trying to play him is me trying to download the other character. And so if I have KD, that gives me one more chance to figure out like how they behave in terms of their mix-ups, or in terms of dodging mine, and so on and so on. I also just don't think that his I don't know, I didn't find the damage options off of Kinetic Advance to be that great. And a lot of what I use Kinetic Advance for on other characters is making unsafe moves safe, and I didn't see a whole lot of that with Talos, except for maybe like a boot or something, right? Because very rarely are people blocking your unsafe moves with Talos, except for the boot. So I run 2-2-2 with Kinetic Deflect, and before I start getting into some of these replays, I think the kind of the big idea that I want to kind of get across in this stream, I guess, is that Talos, like both characters are kind of designed so that they have a hard time to regaining momentum, right? So like Crow has very poor wake up options except for riposte or backdash or block, pretty much. And Talos has like he has moves that can break momentum a little bit better than Crow's, right? Because he has a lot of armor and stuff. But a lot of his moves are they're situational in a way that Dragon Punches or like Dustbreaker or whatever isn't, right? Aren't. You have his special one, which you can like. Sometimes you can sneak in a grab through a block string or like a poorly timed meaty or whatever, and you can use the armor to soak up a hit and eat it, and then you get momentum, and that's great. And with special 2, same thing. Like sometimes you can land that clutch anti-air and reverse the momentum on wake up, and you can't really wake up boot. But sometimes you can use boot to blow through like pressure strings and stuff, right? Like if you think that Edge is going to go for like an overhead off the run, you can boot through that and get some big damage, and that's great. However, all those are super situational, right? It's not like a Dragon Punch where it's like, were they blocking? No, okay, you probably got it. It's you have to make the right guess or the right read, and so because of that, a lot of what you end up doing as Talos is blocking. Now with Crow, it's the same thing. Like a lot of people can blow up riposte pretty easily, especially if you have stuff that combos off a jab, and he has pretty much no like get off me tools whatsoever besides riposte and like a smart blocking and a good backdash here and there, right? So both of these characters are characters that like once you get the momentum, it's super hard to like once Talos gets on you, it's super hard to stuff him. Once Crow gets some meaty discs in and starts working his magic, it's super hard to stop him. But when they get knocked down or when they get pushed back or whatever, and you get the momentum, then it's hard for them to take it back in different ways, right? So the tricky thing is, because Crow can attack at range and his discs cover so much screen space and Talos is so big, and he can charge the discs to break through all of Talos' armored moves, Crow kind of controls the outside really well, and so he can fish for an opening with a disc or with a knockdown. He can stuff Talos if Talos is kind of careless in how he gets in, and so I'd say like. If I were to kind of rate the matchup itself, sorry the camera's shaking around by the way, but if I were to kind of to give the advantage to Crow in the matchup, it would be because Crow Crow can get the momentum from full screen. He can run away. Even if he's low on life, he can run away and he can start some stuff from pretty close to full screen. And so because of that, the onus is always on Talos to get in and keep going in and keep doing damage, right? That doesn't mean he needs to rush in nonstop, right? Like, he can play an intelligent, measured footsie game and gradually push Crow into the corner, but he needs to get Crow knocked down and he needs to get Crow kind of on the defensive before he can start doing damage. And with Crow, if Talos just makes a mistake in his pressure once and you're able to backdash out of range, then you basically get to start your garbage, starting with like chucking discs and whatever, work your way in and open Talos up. And once you knock him down, he doesn't have the best tools for getting up, right? So the burden is on Talos basically to kind of find the holes in Crow's pressure and disrupt them. And once he does that, then he can blow them up, right? Like, Talos has the tools to do lots and lots of damage and just to keep knocking down Crow over and over and over. But you have to be able to kind of break through that pressure, right? And so that's a lot of what we're going to talk about today, is like trying to identify the gaps in Crow's pressure and see like where Talos like can break through. And like I said earlier, a lot of Talos's tools rely on being able to detect patterns in your opponent's behavior. So if you saw earlier in the stream when I was like counting each time I could anti-air that one Crow, it's because like it was pretty obvious that he's jumping all over the place, right? Conversely, there are some players who don't jump much at all, and so because of that, they end up like you can do a lot of great grab resets and you can hit a lot of supers on them, right? In order for Talos to work, you have to be able to kind of get the time to read your opponent and find those holes and take advantage of them, right? And so that's ultimately why I think Talos has to do more work in the matchup, but it's at the very least it's kind of a fun work, right? At least like you feel good when you're doing it. So yeah, we'll just we'll go through some replays in a second, and what we're going to try to do today is just kind of point out like the different scenarios in which like Crow's pressure might not be as airtight or as unbeatable as it looks. Another thing I want to point out before we go into the replays, I think that I was watching old episodes of the Day 9 Daily earlier, and one thing he's really good at for StarCraft is kind of establishing strategic goals, which help kind of organize your game plan, right, when you're going into a matchup or whatever. And with fighting games, obviously a little bit different because it's less about resource management and it's more about like your ability to download your opponent. However, there is one. I did look at that and think, oh well, there is kind of one strategic point that's worth covering in this matchup, and that's with Crow. His super is very useful for combos, and especially if they take kinetic advance, and then they can get all kinds of swag combos. It's also a decent wake up option for him if he has it, but he can only use it basically like once a round at most. So while Crow's super is very good, it's not so good that it can dictate the pace of the game quite like Talos's can. With Talos, like you like the moment you get that meter, they should be scared, right? They should be scared that any single time they block, they're going to get supered, and when they don't block, that means they're still going to get supered, right? And it's so fast, like you just press space, and I think it takes 2 frames to come out or whatever and grab someone, right? So if they're not already like holding up or mashing an invincible reversal or backdash or whatever, you should be able to grab them. So I think that like it's kind of funny because if Talos is at like 20% health and Crow is at 35 or 40, if Talos has meter, he can still just win the match by making them block like one thing, and that should be enough to kill Crow. So like strategically, I think a lot of the if I were to focus the goal for a Talos player, it's not necessarily just like, you know, take out Crow's health bar before he takes out yours. Specifically, it's get him down to a health like low enough health that you can kill with super, and then after that, all your mix-ups get way more potent, right? Because no matter what you do, if they hesitate for just like 1 or 2 frames, you've got them. And Crow does not have quite the same kind of momentum command with his super. So something to think about, something to kind of help you focus the way you think about playing this matchup. Cool. So let's start with Let's start with SCR. We're watching. Let's see. I will switch over to my desktop. Cool. so y'all can still see me, but you should be able to also see the video. And I hope everyone in chat is still there and still watching, though if you pieced out to go do other stuff, that's okay too, whatever. So let's switch over to, yay Seth. Okay, here we go.
To be Godier,
I'm gonna turn
the Talos Master,
this down a little bit.
Renaud,
Sweet.
the strongest player in the world at the game.
Yeah, so we actually don't need to hear too much of the commentary. I'm gonna stop that real quick. Cool. All right. So we're just gonna walk through this and point out any interesting points. And to start with, yeah, that stand H with Crow is a pretty useful zoning tool. It does get blown up by Talos's, and actually Talos's boot will blow this up, and it'll blow Crow's like toward H up. So in both cases, like it's definitely something to pay attention to. Like if they're using that a lot, then pay attention to it. Like look out for it and look for opportunities to boot a little bit more. But yeah, this is definitely an aggressive opening that gets Renaud like an easy early lead. So Renaud just kind of jumps in. It's important to note, so right here, that like deep, meaty disc pressure doesn't really work anymore. But yeah, it obviously made this matchup pretty bad. Like thankfully they patched out we patched out the meaty disc stuff so that it shouldn't work nearly as well. Though I mean, honestly, I don't think it changes the matchup that much. I think it just makes it less dumb. The other thing worth noting is if you look at that, like Renaud got an early throw against Talos, which is actually kind of interesting because a lot of times, and I know this personally, like as a new Talos player, like I'm actually really bad at teching grabs, even though like my command grab should beat like normal grab attempts pretty much every time. And the reason is because I think of this command grab thing, grab attempts as largely like an offensive thing rather than a defensive thing. I will point out though that I think for one, like Crow getting in and throwing Talos is a great idea, and you should expect that good Crows will probably be doing a lot of that, especially if they get an advantage early on like that and they can just get in there. However, it's also worth pointing out that like getting thrown in this game is not actually that bad. It's not like, so like in Street Fighter 4, for example, like throws are a little bit easier to deal with because you get crouch techs and stuff, which if you don't know what that is, basically you can go for you can try and get out of a throw from a crouching position, and if they didn't go for a throw, then instead you get like a crouch short or something. So you don't have to commit as much to trying and to tech the grab. In Rising Thunder, not only do you have to stand when you want to tech a grab, you also have to use a dedicated throw button, right? And so if you mess up your throw tech and you have a throw attempt come out, it's probably going to whiff, and you're probably going to eat a whole bunch of shit that in Street Fighter 4 you don't have to worry about with crouch teching. So throws are very hard to deal with in this game, and it's pretty common to get thrown multiple times once they get in, just because it's an easy way to end a mix-up. That's like, it's pretty high risk to try and tech a throw in this game, right? You're making a pretty direct read. However, you don't really get as much out of the throw, right? Like this throw that Crow did chucks Talos all the way over to the other side of the map, right? He can, and he probably will right here, follow up with some pressure, but it's not nearly as, it's not like free pressure the way that Street Fighter 4s or some other fighting games are. So let's watch a little bit more of this. Boom. Yeah, so here's the corner pressure. Again, another grab. That is really nasty. Yeah, a lot of knockdowns, a lot of sweeps, and Godier just really can't do a whole lot here. Again, some of the stuff is patched out, so the corner pressure isn't nearly as free, thankfully. There's another throw though. Boom. Throws and headbanging, right? Like that was pretty much just like classic high-low throw mix-up stuff there, and it's hard to deal with. So fortunately now Talos does not have that bad a time. So going for the same stuff. Notice that this time Godier finally goes for an anti-air grab. In that previous round, Renaud actually jumped up straight in his face like 2 or 3 times and didn't get an anti-air grab. This time, we're gonna rewind a little bit. Yeah, so that's the end of the first round. This time Godier actually throws it out, and that's good because presumably he noticed that Renaud had been jumping up straight. but he doesn't get it, right? He gets faked out. We're going to watch that again. Boom, boom. Yeah, so jump straight up. So that's 2 jump in so far. That's a 3rd jump in. Yeah, so he's late on that, and he misses the anti-air attempt. So think about what that does to your brain for a second, right? You know that this dude is jumping in on you for free, and you finally bust out your anti-air, and it whiffs. Reynald is probably thinking, I'm going to continue jumping in for free because this dude can't hit his anti-airs. And Godier's probably thinking, well, shit. Like, I went for an anti-air attempt, and I got burned for it. Like, it's going to be a while before he feels confident enough that he can either react or read a Reynald jump attempt. So what Reynald's probably thinking is, I get to jump in all the time. And that is something that absolutely you have to pay attention to in fighting games. You have to pay attention to your own mental state as well as that of your opponent, right? You have to look at the pattern of behavior that you have set, right? In this case, it's not anti-airing, and think about how that's going to inform your opponent's like choices and strategy from there on out. So let's keep looking. There we go. So that's a boot, right? Let me rewind that a little bit. So now Godier clearly knows how painful it is to get stuck in the corner against a Crow. So he's at least trying to do shit to break Crow's momentum, right? He's going for anti-air grabs, even though it didn't work. He's going for a boot. And the important thing here, actually, we'll go ahead and look at that boot again.
One of the greatest players in the game and maybe one of the greatest pros in the game. So that's definitely a rough one. But it is
yeah, that's anti-air grab.
With the armored up grab, trying to predict a Crow jump.
Boot. So that works for a couple of reasons, right? One is Reynald did not throw a charged disc there. That's a regular disc. So the boot can absorb that just fine. And the other thing is if Crow is jumping in a direction, none of his jump-ins are multi-hit, so your boot will beat that, which is great, right? So boot has other problems, and we don't want to over-rely on it, especially in this matchup. But it's worth pointing out that, like, even if that had traded, that would have sent Crow flying across the screen. Like, Talos would have taken a little bit of damage, but ultimately Crow would still be knocked down. Talos might even still be able to get a combo off that. So, like, you can't expect to win necessarily off clean hits in this matchup, but any trade should benefit Talos. Like, not only does he have more life, period, but his goal is to stop Crow's pressure and start his own. And most of Talos' stuff, if it trades, is probably going to end up knocking down or otherwise giving him the momentum anyway. Oh, so he misses the combo. Then he gets blown up. It's a pretty nasty mix-up, great block, but then he loses again. And notice, like, Reynald is just jumping all over the place, right? Godier has not managed to anti-air him again after that. Lands a combo. It's worth pointing out that with this combo that he lands, like, he got that's probably the most damage he could have landed. He could have gotten off that starter with no meter, right? He finishes it, and that's great. But he doesn't really have, like, he could have had better reset opportunities there. When you're losing by that much, you might as well go for the fucking reset, man. But anyway, so now Godier's starting to find a few holes in the pressure, but he's also, like, his anti-air game is kind of screwed. So now we're going in the next game. Real quick, that move is super underrated. Even though it didn't hit this time, I want to talk about it. It's a stand H, right? Boom. Covers a lot of space. Beats or trades with a lot of stuff. I think it has probably around the same range as the boot, all told, but it's safe on block. Like, I actually really like that button a lot. And it's worth, like, I think just, like, it feels bad to get hit by that thing, right? Just like, doosh, right? So, like, if you're ever in a situation where you're like, I need to play a neutral game that's not just, like, random Spartan Rush, which we'll get to that, or, like, you know, trying to jump in or whatever, like, stand H is a pretty good way to feel people out. Stand M, too. Yeah, so Reynald's still just jumping in for free. I like that random Spartan Rush there. Spartan Rush is a great tool, I think, in the neutral. You don't follow it up unless the first one hits, obviously, because it's unsafe. But, like, that first hit in the Spartan Rush has a pretty good distance, and it covers stuff pretty fast. Startup isn't too bad. I think it's like 12 frames or something. So, like, you don't mash on it in the middle of a block string or something. But if Crow is, like, at the range where he wants to like, throw out a random sweep or he wants to start chucking discs, a Spartan Rush will usually hit him out of it. He'll probably win the trade if it trades. So I like it. I like it a lot in the neutral. Gets knocked down, gets thrown. That was actually pretty cool. I like the jump straight up. Jumping straight up is super underrated. Fact is, like a lot of times, the least damage you'll take in a mix-up is if you jump up. And if you jump up, then you usually just flip out after you get hit by whatever. So you're not in that terrible a situation. Boom. So now we got the read. Gets grabbed again.
Just such a smart read. Yeah, that's the one thing that would have gotten him out of that situation. And again, as you
Yeah. Once you get in the corner, you get blown up. We know this.
What he wants to do, and the big combo, and he's gonna get the overhead. Yes.
Yeah, had juggle points to spare there, really.
Yeah, and that is a good point for anybody.
So at this point, things are not looking good for Godir. And spoiler, he loses the match. So it's not that redeeming a story. Gets grabbed again. He also loses the air-to-air, which is really important. I like to start my jump in pretty early with Talos with the chant, with like expecting to go air-to-air. And I think jump H actually covers a whole lot of options. Like if you do an early-ish jump H, it should beat or trade stuff if you go air-to-air, but still hit them if they go to the ground or like backdash or whatever. I don't know the exact timing on it, but it's a pretty versatile tool just because it's so damn big and it sticks out there for a while. Like I really don't think Talos should be losing to Crow in the air-to-air, especially when they're both jumping forward.
But yeah, once you're in the air, okay.
That was nice. So that's actually a really great way. I don't know if you saw that, but basically he dealt with the Crow's throw attempt by jumping straight up. That's a really great way to deal with throws in this game. Basically, especially like against Crow, who Crow does not have that many combos that will punish a jump straight up, right? So like if you're knocked down, you think they're going to go for a throw, try holding up instead, because if they whiff, then you get to punish with a full combo. I was actually asking Art Maj about that earlier today. So now he gets the knockdown. Like, remember, although Godir is probably thinking like, shit, I'm one round away from losing. The fact is that Crow is very poor tools for getting out of pressure. So let's see what he ends up doing with it. Yep, make him block, make him block. Ooh, that sucks. So he got to make him block stuff, but then he went for a hard read anti-air. Like that is, to me at least, that sounds like tilt, right? There are much safer things that Godir could have done. He could have at least made him block a Spartan Rush and go for like a grab attempt or something. He's got kinetic advance meter, so he could have at least gone for something he could cancel, like a boot or something. But he didn't. Instead, he tried to read his mind. And admittedly, like Reynald has been jumping a lot, so it's not the worst idea, but it's not the best. Because now, well, so now they're kind of dogfighting for position. Nice. We got a boot, clap, clap, grab. Right there, like, so right now Crow's in the corner. He can't, Crow cannot safely chuck discs in the corner at this range without risking eating a Spartan Rush or something, right? But what happens is Godir just kind of jumps in and loses the air-to-air again, which, like, honestly, like, kind of sucks. Like, if you're going to keep on getting blown up there, you're probably going to lose. And then gives up the grab. Now we've got the confirm off the throw, which is pretty sick. Oof, grab again. Nice. Look at that. Again, it's a Spartan Rush in neutral. I just want to point out how beautiful that was.
Even get the cancel into the corner here.
And again, throws, part of why they're so dangerous. You can use kinetic.
It's pretty good blocking here by Godir, by the way. Like the fact that he's not eating a whole bunch of combos and it's just mostly just getting thrown, that's not bad. Cool. So we get Spartan Rush into some pressure. Nice. Sweep is also a very useful tool in this matchup, especially if you see Crow is jumping a whole lot. Talos' crouch H is great range and it's pretty fast. It's not fast enough that Crow can't punish you if he jumps over it, but if you notice that he's mostly jumping up or jumping back, especially when he's getting knocked down, sweep is a good way to keep him there. And now the butt splash, again, that's great. The butt splash stuffs a lot of Crow's anti-airs. And part of what it does, I'm pretty sure, like, changes its jump arc or something, kind of like the Honda butt splash in Super Turbo, to help him land faster. So you can stay close to your opponent by using the butt slash. It's down M in the air. Oof, when he misses the grab, gets the boot, gets the round, right? So that match is back and forth, right? But Talos ended up winning off the trades, not necessarily off a whole bunch of clean hits.
One of the most dangerous feelings as a competitor is clapping.
Oof. That's so right there, that's like a random boot neutral. That's a tough thing to do. Like, I wouldn't necessarily I wouldn't throw too many of those out, especially if you're losing. Like, that's something which I would consider a random boot in neutral to be just as dangerous as like hard read anti-air grab.
And this is real
Cool. So Dash Knocker saying he gets increased gravity on the butt splash. So he falls faster, right?
cashes it in and gets the corner kick.
Boom. Oof.
He baited it out.
Made the hard read there. Oh, and he won
Yeah.
more
So at this
advantage.
point,
Okay.
nice. So Goodyear finally gets the anti-air grab, but it's after Reynald has already been jumping in his face like 3 or 4 times, one of which caused him to lose the supers. That's pretty expensive, right? Nonetheless, he finally got the anti-air.
Using the armor to catch the
Oof, and another boot.
because he goes into a grab animation, the projectile will whip, so that's a critical part.
All right, there we go. That's a good boot, but he fails to convert.
Fierce, yeah.
Another butt splash, which is good.
And that's, I think, Goodyear is just showing
Another
some,
boot.
Nerves. We've seen him play
Spartan Rush in the neutral.
Rising Thunder tournament at the Foundry.
Oof.
Goodyear went deep in that.
And
he played up against F-Champ in that one. And
nice.
very disappointed.
So you got another anti-air grab.
Here. Okay.
Another boot. Ooh.
Has a
Oh,
chance.
pulled him off the ground just at the last. That was the last frame.
Good damage.
Could've hit.
Oh,
Ugh.
that's great.
So it's actually a lot closer than it looked like.
Reynald
Right.
will move on.
So
Goodyear not out yet.
that's it for the Goodyear match. I will go ahead and close this real quick and come back to my webcam for a minute. So right off the bat, you can tell that some of the more important tools in that matchup are Spartan Rush in the neutral, right? The boot, though it has to be used carefully, the anti-air grab, though that also has to be used carefully, and the just like the butt splash, right? So your air to airs or your air to grounds, and the butt splash is nice because you can kind of do both of it, right? Those tools are super important for keeping the pressure on Crow and kind of breaking through his stuff, right? Like his halo pressure and whatever. If you're not using those tools, like if you're thinking too much about landing the special one grabs, right, like the pile driver or whatever, you're like, yeah, that's useful, but it's probably more useful to extend pressure with that, right, by ticking into it or setting it up somehow, right, like after making them block stuff, than it is on getting out of pressure, right. And just a note on that boot, like, yeah, Goodyear definitely landed some clutch boots in that round. Though he wasn't able to confirm off him, but he also got punished a lot for doing boots, and that's rough, right? The boot is kind of a tough tool, especially to do in neutral. You can think of it as like a focus attack that's not safe and that you can't dash cancel, right? So just a focus attack and no dash cancel, I guess. Like you can eat a lot of shit if you go for the boot and guess wrong, like, and it whiffs or whatever. It's a tool that I think you should use sparingly. Meanwhile, the anti-air grab, like, absolutely, you need to make them fear that grab, right? And that was something that Goodyear didn't do until it's too late. Like, by the end, Goodyear landed it 2 or 3 times in that round, but Reynald didn't respect it because he already had a life lead and he had a round lead, right? So a lot of what I look for when I'm playing my Talos online, at least, is trying to land a few clutch anti-airs early, especially if I'm worried that the player is like, if I'm worried that they're really good, I want to pay special attention to hitting the anti-air early so they have to respect it. If I lose a couple rounds, then and then I start landing anti-airs, like, I might be able to catch them out a little more often than normal because they'll have to adapt to me hitting anti-airs after not hitting them for so long. But I'd much rather scare them into thinking I hit a lot of anti-airs, and then from there, my grab should get more powerful, right? I need to ground them first before I can start working all my grab mix-ups with the command grabs and supers and so on. Okay, cool. So now we're going to go on to some of my archives. So these were just some random matches that I recorded yesterday. It's not like a comprehensive list of like the best crows or whatever. Let's see if you guys can see him okay. Cool, that's me. All right, so we will start, let's see. That is not Crow, that is Dauntless. Where, here we go. I'm not gonna have my sound on for this because it's actually just me talking and that would get super confusing. You are missing the camera recording from my stream where I showed my cat, though. That was kind of cool. Cool. So what you're going to notice is I start out this round with a few kind of big guesses, and that should screw me a lot worse than it actually does, right? So I guessed there a whole bunch. This is me playing like internet random, really. Like I can't. I was not thinking my best at that particular point. Yeah, Krill Factor. You saw the cat. Anyway, so now Crow has the edge, and he has control of the range. He should be winning, but that sweep was what did it for me. Man, Twitch's navigation UI is not the best. So boom, boom, boom. He knocks me down. Go for a boot. He knocks me down again. I should be, like, I'm losing this pretty badly. I whiff another boot. I whiff Spartan Rush, but I get that sweep. And that's what lets me start my garbage, right? Let's see that one more time. Try and stuff sweep. So on the knockdown, that's enough for me to close the gap and start getting all up in the booty, right? So I get the grab, you know, manage to get the right post out, and I don't take any damage from it. Gets me with a good throw, misses the follow up. I get another grab. So again, at this point, I know like he's standing a lot, right? He's staying on the ground. He's not flying around so much that I'm not hitting my command grabs, which is a good thing to know. Yeah, and there you'll notice that he blocked the sweep there, right? So now he's definitely staying on the ground. If he had been holding up, that sweep would have hit him. Just checking those discs. Playing a pretty good outside game, right? And this is what people usually hate when they play this matchup, right? But then I get the Spartan Rush. And that's clutch. Because now I get the knockdown. It is a whole ton of damage right there. That's what, like 15% or something. And it's super fast, like for the range. So yeah, like the moment they get too confident with discs, you should be throwing sweeps or Spartan Rush. Nice backdash. I missed my grab. That sucks. That would have killed too, right? So that's that general health area I'm talking about. But yeah. Sorry, by general health area, I mean this is the point at which the super becomes round defining, right? And all of a sudden he has to be far more careful of my mix-ups. But I blew it. Sweet, so there's a Spartan Rush in neutral and then a random grab. Again, he's staying grounded here, so it's pretty easy for me to start working my command grab mix-ups. Got a boot into some damage. That right there is the classic like Talos reset as far as I can tell. I think pretty much everybody does it, right? I'll rewind so you can see it again. So it's off the boot. Let's see where I land a boot like right around here. Boom, boot. And I did crouch medium into the first hit of Spartan Rush. And what it does is they land on their feet here, and so you have time to do a meaty command grab. Now it's not guaranteed, obviously. They can reversal out, they can jump up or whatever, but it's a pretty good opportunity to test them, right? So here, I land the grab obviously, and I get to continue my knockdown shenanigans, right? But I pretty much always, if I'm doing that to a new player or a player that I've never played against before, and I land the boot, I go for that reset and I go for the grab to see how they deal with it, right? If they jump up, then the next time I'm going to go for that reset, but I'm not going to go for the grab, and I'm going to wait to see if they jump up, and if they do, then I'll get the anti-air grab, and that breaks you a little bit. Anyway, back to the match, right? So notice there what I did was I knocked him down with a throw, and then I jumped after him with the butt splash, and that hit him out of the air, right? So now he's starting to jump more. And with Crow, that's actually it's kind of tricky. Like, it's good damage mitigation, but I land right next to him because I hit him with the jump down M, and it covers a lot of his options, right? Like, if he is standing, he wouldn't have been able to anti-air me, I don't think. It definitely would have been a pretty tricky timing to anti-air me out of that. So, like, no matter what, it's good pressure that keeps him pushing further in the corner and me in his face. Get a regular grab, walk up grab, and he jumps out. So now he's definitely more jumpy, so I go for an anti-air and I miss it. But I'm still thinking he's more jumpy now than he was, right? I missed that the ground grab too. Yep, so again, more pressure with the butt splash. I also just, in general, like, I really like making them block jabs, like just crouch light into like a sweep if it's blocked, or, you know, there's like, you can make them block a Spartan Rush, whatever. It just, I think it's scary to block 3 lights from a grappler. Boom. So that's another good example, right? Like, I ended up trading the boot with the disc, and I didn't get to follow up, but he was still knocked down next to me, so I come out ahead overall. I get my grab, So I actually burn my grab early to get a life lead, which really isn't that necessary. But then I get to start building meter again. He wakes up with his super, and that's actually a pretty cool combo. I like it a lot. Yeah, so this whole match is kind of a dogfight, to be honest. Let's see. Oof. Yeah. So I made some not great reads there. Like if you remember both the first and third round, there's like a good amount of whiff grabs and stuff. But I got to learn a little bit more about how he plays. And since Rising Thunder is 2 out of 3, I got a chance to start figuring out how this dude plays, which is nice. Boom. So now he's mashing light in the neutral because he's tired of eating shit, but it doesn't work too well. And I mean, honestly, like those are jump ins that he should have been blocking or backdashing or whatever instead of trying to deal with. If Crow's trying to contest your jump ins, like it's a bad idea. And that right there, like that is a hit that far outweighs the the effects even of winning the round. Let's go over that again. So I'm winning this round pretty handily. Like it's tough for Crow to come back from this. And what do? I run up in his face and I hard read anti-air, right? I could afford that. I had the life meter to afford that. He had already burned pretty much all of his resources. He wasn't coming back, and I wanted to get in his head a little bit. I want him to feel like he actually that he's downloaded, right? So that's more of a mental attack than anything else. Oh yeah, it's also worth pointing out, like earlier I was talking about some of Crow's. I'm going to rewind this a little bit. Earlier I was talking off about some of Crow's throw game, and I do think it's a good idea for Crow to be throwing pretty consistently against Talos. However, there is one thing that makes it harder. I'm sorry, I rewound back the first round so we could get all of that second round in. So basically, like, there's one thing to point out, and that's Crow's walk speed is booty. I'm pretty sure it's one of the slowest in the game. He's a mobile character overall, so it's not really that big a deal. But Crow's walk speed is not great. It's pretty hard for him to take throw attempts, except off a jump in. Like that's when you should be worried about it the most, right? And on this build, he's using core puncture, right? Which is the one that combos off a medium. And you get a knockdown after it, but it doesn't combo off a light. So if Crow's running core puncture instead of dire sting, then off the bat, you know that his throws are going to be less useful because he's not going to be able he's not going to be able to convert damage off a light, like a crouching light or whatever. He doesn't get anything off of it unless he uses dire sting, which means that he's going to be either his throw game is then less scary, right? So it's something to keep in mind. Like when you're looking at Crow builds, that actually affects a lot of the other stuff besides just combos or whatever. I'll turn a little bit of the audio on because it sounds weird without. Yeah, so there, again, kind of missing some of the command grab opportunities, and it's clear that I probably need to start scaring him a little bit with the anti-air grab. I don't know if I do, but I definitely should be. Yeah. Though he's actually, like, he's not jumping at me a whole lot, and that's when the anti-air grab is at its most useful. Oof. Back on the horse. Oof. Yeah, so that right there is him whiffing a grab attempt because he tried to walk up and he was just too slow and not in range. Yeah. And now he hasn't been jumping nearly as much, so I get to go for my command grab. Or my super grab, rather. And that just about finishes it. Alright, so now we're even. Yeah, so that's me using that stand H to start to try and control some space. Spartan Rush, again, really useful in the neutral. Nice knockdown combo. And there, with the S2, like, now I've scared him from jumping a little bit. Right? Now he has to respect that. Get a good boot into the reset. Right? Since I hit the S2, that means the reset is all of a sudden more useful. And then I can chip him with a Spartan Rush. So remember, those are synergistic, right? Like, because I hit the anti-air grab, that means my resets work. And once my resets stop working, it's time to shut him down with another anti-air grab. Dog. Yep. This time, you know, I make him block a jump in, and he's probably thinking, oh, he's going to go low after this. And it's because he's kind of scared from jumping, right? I mean, some of it is also him guessing wrong and me guessing right. But you can start to detect a pattern over the course of these long sets, or longer sets, rather. Yeah, so there's not really much to see here. So, Air Spartan is great for chip, especially at that angle. Like, I think there's literally nothing he could have done, right? Even if he had dash canceled it with kinetic, he wouldn't have been able to not at least trade with that. So I think that was it for, yeah, that was it for my match. So now I'm going to open up Rising Thunder. And let's talk a little bit about training mode, because training mode is one of the places that, like, you can start to work on this stuff. So I'll start by turning down the audio a little bit. Hopefully you can still hear me okay. I'll turn down the music too. So, to recap, what we know about this matchup is that Crow wins on the outside. He wins if he can get momentum, but it's not impossible. I'll go ahead and switch to webcam view. It's not impossible. It's not impossible for Talos to win this, right? What you have to do is you have to be able to break you have to break Crow's pressure and keep it on, right? You have to identify the gaps in momentum. The reason it's in Talos's, or the reason Talos is at a disadvantage is because he has to respond to Crow's pressure, right? Like, Crow is the one constantly attacking and zoning and whatever. Crow gets to control the momentum and the pace of the match, and you have to take that momentum away from him. And you have the tools, but the tools are tricky, right? And it's gonna be typically it's gonna be less work for a Crow to shut you down than it is for for you to shut that Crow down, right? That said, like, don't underestimate the cognitive burden that a Crow player feels in this situation as well, right? Like, when we're kind of sympathizing with the Talos player and adopting his perspective in these replays, like, Crow gets to jump around and do all kinds of shit, right? And it looks great and looks super easy. But the fact is that, like, you could tell once a Talos hit some of those anti-air grabs, like, Crow's mobility went down a lot until he felt comfortable in doing it again, right? So, really, like, what you're practicing in this matchup, one is just using the right tools to kind of seize control or, like, take control in that neutral game, right? And the tools that I've identified are Spartan Rush at kind of, like, up to max range for Spartan Rush. You'll pick off a lot of, like, unsafe disc attempts, right? Because, like, with Crow, the vulnerability in the disc is front-loaded, so you can kind of get in there and go under the disc, or beat the disc on its way out or whatever. With Spartan Rush, or sometimes with Sweep, right? Let's see, what else is there? Yeah, so, like, that Sweep comes out in 10 frames. The jab comes out in 7, so that's actually not a bad move to use in the neutral either. His stand medium punch is pretty good range. His stand H is, like, if you're a little bit further, then that's great. So you should be using those tools kind of in, like, when you're trying to play footsies. You should also be looking to hit that anti-air grab pretty early on, right? Because you want to ground him. Like, your pressure strings into your grabs and whatever are not nearly as effective if you can't convince him to not jump. And doing that usually means hitting him with the anti-air grab a few times. I would suggest anti-air grab over boot, but, like, the boot can be useful too. What you want to make sure is that you don't give up a lead super early on because you use the boot and you get blown up for it, right? Like, the boot is a pretty big bet. And it's important to bust it out sometimes, but, like, it's tough. it can be very tough because like you can eat a lot of shit super hard if you use the boot poorly. So what that ends up meaning is like, so you know, now that we're going to take this into training mode, just think a little bit about kind of like how you can prep for some of these matchups. And really, the main thing that I'd be looking at is like recording a few quick Crow mix-ups, but like less focus on like how to block the crazy ones. And honestly, they're not that crazy to begin with. Like I think the trickiest stuff is like the fuzzy guard setup and whatever. It's less about learning how to block the mix-ups, so that you know you should definitely practice that, and more about learning like spotting the opportunity for gaps. Right? Getting comfortable with dealing with the fact that the disc is always going to be out and you need to find a way around it. Right? So let's just mess around a little bit in training mode. So we've got Talos with our build. We're going to set up Crow and we're going to put them on record, everything normal. Go ahead and reset. So the first thing you should get used to is getting knocked down and eating a charged disc, just like that. So we recorded that. So first, you get knocked down. Just blocking, right? So if I don't quick recover at all, then that's what I get. Go ahead and reset it. Oh shit. Haha! There we go. Thanks, Dash Knocker. Let's try that again. So, first, we get knocked down. No quick rise or anything. We're going to have to block it. If I try and do anything, I'm going to eat shit, right? Well, in that case, that was nice. But in general, you can count on that disc to hit meaty and to blow up everything you do, right? So once again, block. I can try and like wake up boot, but yeah, it's probably not going to work. Whether it works or not is dependent on how meaty the disc is in the arc and whatever, but in general, I wouldn't count on it. Now, if I quick rise, I can trade a sweep, right? Go ahead and see that again. Right? And that's actually not bad. Like, if I'm knocking down, but I eat a disc, that's not the worst thing in the world. Certainly, when you saw all the pressure strings that Reynald was getting, like, yeah. Let's see that again. You can Spartan Rush, right? See that one again. The nice thing about the Spartan Rush is it pulls you out of the way of the disc. It's also worth pointing out, I don't know exactly how it records, but or like how the record handles stuff like block inputs. I don't think it would, but this is safe on block. So even if he blocks it, at least I'm out of the range of the disc, and I can start at least trying to work some shenanigans, right? I can go for a grab or something, and that's better than just eating constant disc pressure. Stand H, not so great. Yeah. So wake up grab at that range, obviously not going to work. But if I'm a little bit closer when he hits the sweep, he's comboed into the sweep. That's another decent option, right? And the reason it works, obviously, is because that grab puts you out of, like, you can't get hit in the middle of executing that grab. So the disc doesn't matter. Okay. So honestly, the main thing that I'd be looking here is like, and like, yeah, obviously I want to block this sweep, that's great, but sometimes I'm going to get it swept. So you got to be able to prepare for that. And what I'm finding right now is I trust Spartan Rush more than anything right now. Spartan Rush or sweep. So what happens if I block that sweep? That's pretty cool. Let's try that again. What if I Spartan Rush? Actually, yeah, so boot, probably not a great idea. We'll do Spartan Rush next. So yeah, trade, still not the worst thing in the world. In fact, in damage, we just about broke even. Maybe if I wait a little bit? Yeah, so you can actually Spartan Rush under it completely if you time it right. Now, of course, they won't just stand there all the time, so let's see what happens. Let's see what happens when we block, do a slightly different string. Shoot the disc, and then jump up. Again. Right? You can see them going for like a jump, you know, max range jump H, or waiting for a slicer opportunity, or whatever. Right? Ooh, so I tried to anti-air grab there. And this is after a quick rise. So if I read the jump, then I can hit the anti-air grab. But that's tricky, right? If I wait, well, let's see what happens if I, yeah. So that was, I didn't quick rise, and I read the grab attempt, or the jump. If I react, get hit. Alright, so what happens if I quick rise it now? Yeah, so that's tricky. Like, reacting to that anti-air is tricky pretty much no matter what. Oop. Yeah, so I tried to, again, I tried to hit my S2 there and I didn't. How about boot? Nope. Well, that's messed up spacing. Let's try that again. Yeah, it's tough with that charged disc out there. If they don't charge the disc, then it might work. Trying a late Spartan Rush there after a quick rise. That can work. Yeah. Probably would have punished me on the way down. It might have traded though, so again, not the worst. Let's see. What else should we try? Alright, so now we're gonna try. Need to get a little bit closer. Let's try that with an actual. Oops. Well, I'll go ahead and change that. Oh, wait, can I not change the variance right now? That's fine. I'll record it one more time. Alright, so he's going to knock me down. I'm just blocking normally. Can block it. But not really many opportunities if I don't quick rise. Let's try that again. So there I tried to anti-air grab and it got stuffed. If you anti-air grab super early, you can get it. But again, that's more of a read. I wonder if I can... Ooh. I wonder if I can air grab him. That's a tool I have not used a whole lot of yet. Nah, probably too tough with the disc in the way. Maybe if I'm a little faster. Nope. Yeah, it's probably not going for air grab. Oops. Woo. Yeah, and probably my best opportunity there is just to block. I might be able to get a grab if I time right. Nah, that was way too early. So that's worth pointing out. Like, obviously, that depends a lot on their meaty cross-up timing and stuff. But actually, I might be able to walk up and anti-air grab. Yeah. So if the disc doesn't hit meaty, like that one, then you might be able to get away with some stuff. If it hits meaty, though, if you're forced to block it on wake up, probably your best option is just to block. Cool. So that right there was not an exhaustive look at the matchup by any means. Not even an exhaustive look at training mode. Like you could easily see, like when you get hit by some good Chrome mix-ups, you can put them in training mode and try them out and try and figure out where the holes are, right? And I could totally do like another segment on that some other time. But basically, that's kind of how, like, I think that's a pretty good like slice of slicer. That's a pretty good slicer of like how you can start tackling some of your bad matchups, right? With Talos and Crow is kind of an example in that end. You got to figure out like why you're losing the match, right? Or why it's harder, why you feel like you have to work harder in that matchup than your opponent does, and then start practicing the points, like the critical points, which in this case is breaking Crow's pressure. You start using the kind of the right tools in the neutral. You start using more of the sweeps, more of that Spartan rush and stuff, and make sure it's at the right time. You know, you're not just blindly going in there. You're trying to look at the gaps in the disc, and you have to be patient and kind of read both their offense, right? Like where are they leaving gaps in disc pressure, as well as their defense, right? When are they jumping and when are they staying on the ground so you can do your mix-ups? And if you know, like, that's really the point here is, yeah, I will switch back to the webcam for this. If it's one thing to know that's a bad matchup, it's more important to know why something is a bad matchup. Because if you know why, then you can start to get good at the parts that are bad, and then it's not so bad. So that's pretty much all I had to say. Thanks for watching. If you're still here and you have questions or whatever, that's awesome. I will totally take them. But other than that, man, like I just kind of hope you enjoyed it. And like I said, I'm not a Talos master by any means. So if any of this stuff was useful to you, like that's great. If you have like other ways of kind of tackling this matchup and dealing with it, I'd love to hear more, right? Like this is not the end of the conversation. I'd like to think of it as a conversation starter. So yeah, whatever you got, whether it's questions about this or like feedback on this overall segment, like I said, this is something new I'm trying, but I think it could be a lot of fun, and so I'd like to do more of it. Thanks.